All right, SML, day two of SML mock drafts. We've got a second one back to back. This one, I've got Strawblacks here. What's going on, Straw?
What is up? We are ready. Been looking at all the teams and excited to do this mock draft for everyone.
Yeah, I'm excited. So last night we had Prime on with a mock draft. Prime been here since the SML started. Obviously, he created it. Maybe he's got some kind of built-in biases or narratives towards guys and thinking, he knows what they want when maybe that's not necessarily true. You know how those SML narratives are. So now we've got Straw. You're the newest guy here. You've got nothing to go off of other than what you've seen and the teams that you see out there and how guys play. So we'll see if there's any difference between yours and Prime's mock draft. So we'll just jump right into pick number one. Who do you got Prime taking?
Yeah, I'll probably I already shook things up with this first choice. I mean, I think everybody pretty much say Prime's going Colts. So I thought, hey, I went off of this mock draft saying, who do I think would be scariest to see these teams with,
Mm-hmm.
and based on how I've seen people play. And so I've heard him talk about it a lot, and I think it would be pretty crazy to see him take the Bills. I think not only is this a perfect match for a great user, but I think it shakes up the entire league. If he really does take the Bills, I think it changes what everyone else does. So I thought it'd be fun to have Prime taking the Bills and start some instant chaos to this mock draft.
Yeah, absolutely agree that if he doesn't go Colts, Bills seem to be the obvious pick. It's a great team, but then he can kind of twist that knife into Faz and Dan that they didn't have success with the Bills and he did. And if there's anything he loves more than the Colts, it would be to just kind of shit on those two. All right, so
Yeah.
number two, where do you have me going?
All right. So with you, I think that if Prime makes that move, I think you're going with the Texans. I think that I don't. While I don't think this is like the best team for you, I think this is the best team like for your soul. I think you really, really want to choose the Texans based on how much you've already talked about them. And I think your heart says fuck it if Prime chooses the Bills and you roll with the Texans. You get to develop Stroud, which will be crucial because he has that 89 throw power.
Yep.
And the rest of the team is kind of ready for you to develop them and turn them into a beast. So I think if Prime really goes with the Bills, I think you go with the Texans.
I think you're probably dead on. The Texans, for me, the big issue is obviously the division. If it looks like Prime and Faz are going to go to the AFC South, that's a hard sell to take that Texans team and try to build them up with those two there. But if it's only one or possibly none, that makes them a lot more attractive, and it would be fun to build up Stroud, Anderson. I mean, you've got the young pieces there; they'd be fun for a cycle. So I'm on board with what you got so far. What about number three with Matt?
So with Matt, I thought there was a couple of teams he could have went with. I think he did amazing with Tua and with that speed. He was always making timely throws, less mistakes, and he's really dominant in his run game. And so I thought a great team for him would be the Bengals. He's not gonna have the same amount of speed, but I think he has a great, great one-two punch with Chase and Higgins, and then Joe Mixon as his running back. I mean, he did so good with the running back that he had. I'm not sure if he drafted or got him out of free agency, but he did so great with that running back that he had in the last season. I thought the Bengals would be a great team for him to really really go and be able to compete early too. Maybe get a somebody early.
Yeah, I love that pick. Throw power, obviously not an issue for Matt, and he will still. I mean, Chase Young, Jamar Chase still plenty fast, and then he's got T Higgins. He's got his big guy. Mixon going to start a decent overall, and then when he gets abilities, he could end up with good ones. I love that pick. I think Matt would definitely love Burrow. He gets kind of the best of all worlds with his quarterbacks and his teams that he's had so far. And the Bengals, another team that I think would be a lot of fun. Okay, so QP at four.
QPF4. QP throws dots. I mean, the games I've seen and watching him in that Super Bowl, he throws some amazing passes. And so, what better than to give him the social media QB himself, as some people call him, with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And I think he's a Chargers fan, if I was hearing
Yep.
correctly. And they have nothing but talent. I think he's gonna make them look monstrous, same way Prime did. And I think he's gonna have a lot of fun throwing it around in his with his heavy throwing team, and they got a receiving back, so I think he's just gonna throw it, and we'll see a lot of what he did in that last season with the Bucks here with the Chargers.
Yeah, I think QP, obviously the Chargers' favorite team. He's probably going to go there. But like you said, I think they're a great fit for him too, just based off the way he plays, slinging the ball. I think if they were to somehow go 1 through 3 and he had to pick something else, I think he's going with like a Chiefs with Mahomes. Maybe he goes Jets with Rodgers, but I think he definitely goes with a superstar quarterback that he can sling it. We saw what he did with Davis Mills, so it's not a matter of can he make a quarterback do it, but starting with one like one of those guys would be, I think, a lot of fun for him. All right, so Dan at number 5.
Dan, this one was interesting because I think Dan does everything really well. Like, I think he might not have any stats that like completely jump off the page, only because you have like the QPs and the fastest throwing all these crazy stats, and then you got some guys who like run the ball for almost 3,000 yards,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think Dan does everything really well. And a team that I thought is like that, that he could really take this high would be the Chiefs. I would love to see Dan with the Chiefs. I think people look at the Chiefs on paper and think they can beat them in real life, and they come out and just dominate them in every aspect. And I think that that's Dan. And so I'd be excited to see him using the Chiefs. And I think he would really, really carve people up, just like Patrick and Andy do in real life. I think he'd do a great job.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs for him. Another team I think would be really good for him would be the Commanders. I think the defense and then the weapons. Uh, Dan seems to be a guy. Now he did take Josh Allen here in the post blip, but normally he's a guy. I think it was my first full cycle. I watched him develop a rookie quarterback up to the X Factor and then trade him away, and then start over. He's won a Super Bowl with Teddy Bridgewater. He took Trey Lance, turned him into a superstar. So he's not a guy that really cares about the quarterback position. I think as soon as they become expensive, they're expendable. And and so I think a team like the Commanders that have basically pieces everywhere except that quarterback position would be another good fit for him. But I could definitely see him doing something with the Chiefs as well.
Yeah, I can see that for Dan. And I think to your point, I've seen him carve up with so many different teams and quarterbacks that that makes sense. If he can do it with anybody, then the Commanders, that is a strong pick for him too. I like that.
Yeah, and it was just mostly from just listening to him talk about Josh Allen and how he was getting paid too much. He doesn't need all that. And you might as well take a team that has everything except that. So,
Yeah.
but okay. So Woods at 6. Woods kind of quiet about his team picks. Who do you have Woods taking?
Yeah, I think I only played Woods once, and he destroyed me with Pacheco. I don't think I could stop him at all. I think he broke like I don't even know how many tackles in that game. And so for me, I was like, man, Woods should build on this run game. And what better running back to choose than Nick Chubb? I mean, that's the best running back in the game in Madden when you look at speed and power and breaking tackles. And so I'm thinking, if Woods wants to come here and just compete early, it looks like if he was able to develop Pacheco, he could probably develop a lot of running backs. But, if he wanted to just take the top one and really, really do something with that run game, I think he could take the Browns.
Yeah, my first 2 seasons here, or 2 cycles, he was the Browns. He was Browns in 21 and 22. And that was probably the best I saw Woods play. Now, it was obviously like 4 years younger, so maybe the fingers hadn't tightened up with the arthritis. But that was easily the best I'd seen him play. Both sides of the ball. If I remember right, he didn't even have Chubb the first year. The first cycle, he'd already moved on from Chubb. Second cycle, he had him and did really well. But yeah, I could see him going to the Browns. And if I remember right, the reason he had the Browns twice was I think it was his son liked the Browns, and so he took them and used them. So definitely could see him going back there.
Sounding like a perfect fit. And that defense, man,
Oh,
with
absolutely.
Miles Garrett and man, yeah,
And
I
they
think
add
it'd be.
Zadarius Smith this year, so you have 2 edge rushers, I think what is it, edge threat. I don't think they're either one's elite, but just the edge threat on either side is going to be really tough for opposing offense. We saw what just Miles Garrett by himself does.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
number 7, we have Meats. Meats, a guy that doesn't tend to like to double up teams. At least that's what he says. Who do you have Meats taking?
Yeah, so I was looking at Meats and I this past season, and I think he could have had a better season with potentially a better QB. He threw a lot of touchdowns, but he also threw a lot of picks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he might benefit from potentially having one of those top QBs. I think he's a great all around player, and with the limit of those mistakes, he could push deep for the playoffs. And so I think the Eagles are a great team for him. I think they're all around great team in real life that limits mistakes, and if that could rub off on Meats, I think he's like competing deep in the playoffs. And I think Jalen Hurts is an amazing QB, not biased here at all. And so with a solid run game, great pass catchers, great defense, I think that's a steal for Meats.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say if you're looking at teams before the draft, the Eagles have to be a top 3 team, right? I mean, they have literally everything. If you don't like Hurts, maybe it drops him down a little bit because of his throw power or maybe the cap, but from head to toe, they've got everything at every position. So I think that's a great pick for Meats, and I don't think he's been the Eagles before, so that would kind of fall into his category of teams he'd be more than willing to take. Now 8, what about D-Muse? Lots of talk about him going to the Saints because it's his team. What do you have him?
Yeah. There was this one was tricky for me, and I definitely forgot that I did see that he was a Saints fan. So I forgot about that when I was thinking about what team was good for him, and so I went back and looked at his season and saw that he did great things with Kyler, and so I said, hey, why not give him another great running quarterback? So I had D Muse going to the Ravens. I think that this team is also pretty stacked. I think they're gonna play better in real life than what they'll be rated on Madden this year. And I think they're still rated really high. When I look at like the receivers in particular, just a lot of new people, OBJ coming off that injury. But I think that D Muse would do some great things with the Ravens, and I'd love to see that. So I had him going to the Ravens.
Yeah, I like that. I know he's talked about maybe not taking the Saints, or at least not making it so obvious so that people will talk about him. I think, again, you've hit the nail on the head. He did really good with Kyler. You give him a better version of Kyler in Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to worry about finding a running back. I think J.K. Dobbins is more than capable there. And then they added receivers. The defense is in a better place, I think, than that Cardinal defense was, and especially the cap. I think that's a good pick for D-Muse if he doesn't go Saints. So how about Fins at number 9?
Yeah, with Fins, it seemed to me, I was just trying to look at his team, and I'm not sure how he acquired some of the players, but it seems like he's a good trader. And so I think, I think he had the Bengals this past season, threw some picks. And so I think a lot of his wins maybe came from, the rest of his team dynamic, his defense, his running game, and so I thought maybe he can wheel and deal with QBs. Maybe not go for one of the top QBs, but maybe wheel and deal and focus more on that defense, the run game, and all of that. And so I thought the 49ers would be a good pick for him. They have a deep QB room that he might be able to sort of trade around with some of those players. And I think they have enough weapons where he might be able to make some other good trades to really, really kind of get them locked in how he wants them, with them already being like a super good team. And so I thought that'd be a great choice for Fins.
Yeah, I like that. I actually didn't even think about that when we did the other mock, and we talked about the Chiefs and a team with a good quarterback. It is possible that he felt like that defense kind of held him back, and maybe that was the problem. And I could see him going with a 49ers team. Multiple quarterbacks there. I don't know if 84 throw power Brock Purdy's going to get it done, but you've got Trey Lance, or you could flip Trey Lance, I'm sure, for 2 first-round picks in this league. Somebody's going to overpay. Gilbert will give you 3 of them. So, yeah, I actually like that 49ers pick for him. The cap's a little bit restrictive, but he's got some practice with that again with the Bengals. So I think the 49ers are a good pick for Fins, and it puts him in the NFC, which should be a little weaker, and he's got the team that's the top roster in at least the NFC West, if not the entire NFC.
Yeah, for sure.
So 10, we have Faz. Just saw what he did with newly inducted Alan Whiting, Hall of Fame quarterback. What do you have Faz doing here?
I still think I think the scariest thing for any of us to see, we all knew watching Faz play, look for Christian Watson streaking down the field, and then him being able to hit any and everything else. It's so scary to kind of watch. And so I think the Dolphins. I mean, I think that now makes him like one of the scariest teams in the league, with just how much he could stretch the field any direction. And knowing he can throw and hit any and every pass, I think him having the Dolphins is a really scary sight. We'll see. It seems like people have been able to make Tua throw it deep, and so I think Faz could probably make it happen too. And the defense, I think, has enough for him to do great things, especially because his user's so good. So I think he's going with the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's another one. He took the Packers. He had Aaron Rodgers. We saw him win 2 Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers. But it's kind of like Dan in that the quarterback doesn't seem to matter. Um, he, he took the Packers with a rookie quarterback, 2nd-round pick, turns that guy into an X factor, and takes. Everybody talks about how good Christian Watson was. He wasn't good to start. Like he turned him into that. So I think going to a team like the Dolphins that already have those monster weapons, I think you're right where he can take to a hell. He could trade to somebody that needs a quarterback and then just take maybe trade for a Baker Mayfield from the Bucs or something like that and really turn Baker Mayfield into an X factor with those weapons. Again, another team I like for him would be the Commanders, but same reasoning. I mean, I think you're dead on with these as far as him getting those weapons and becoming one of the scariest teams.
Yeah, and now we look at that AFC East and we say, who is joining that division?
Yeah, with the Jets, they're a decent roster, but that Patriots team is not that great. And then to join that division, I'll tell you what though, that Texans pick looks a lot better right now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I know. If this is how it shook out, you'd be very happy.
Yeah, I would not be upset with that. I would like Prime to be in there with the Colts. I liked playing against Prime my first cycle here, or first full cycle. I was the Jags, he was the Colts, and I had a good time then. But to go in with the Texans and have the opportunity to maybe develop guys, that would be great. Okay, so Faz and Prime both end up in the AFC, but in the AFC East instead. What about Dump? He's talked about the Chiefs. Chiefs, you have him gone at 5. I think he wants a quarterback. Where do you have him going here?
Yeah, I looked at what Dump did this past season. Obviously, that was what I based a lot of this off of. How I saw them play when I watched them, as well as sort of their stats, and what I saw them do really, really well. And Dump obviously went crazy with JT, over 2K rushing yards, like ridiculous monster. And so I said, let me give him who I think might be the best running back on the board. I said he'd go with the Raiders, teaming up right behind Josh Jacobs. That doesn't give him a great quarterback in Jimmy G. But when I was looking at what he did with the Colts, I mean, it was a very similar situation. And so I thought, maybe building off of that with the Raiders team that has a lot of opportunity to kind of be better and see what he can do if he can build around a young Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, to me, Dump is kind of in that group. Maybe not quite on the level Faz and Dan are with not needing a great quarterback, but Dump is another guy that can kind of sling it with whoever. And then, yeah, if you give him Josh Jacobs, that Raider defensive front is not anything to worry about as far as needing to build it up. You've got Max Crosby, you've got Tyree Wilson, the rookie they got, you've got Chandler Jones. There's plenty there for that Raider defensive front, and I know that's been something he's complained about was his defensive line specifically, but defense overall. I think the Raiders are a good fit for him. Seems really high for the Raiders, but really they're going to go between 19 and 21 anyway, so maybe it's not that high, but I could see that giving him a big running back like that. The other one I would say would maybe be the Giants, giving him Saquon Barkley, but
Yeah, with Saquon. I thought about that one too. I was thinking about that when I was looking at the running backs. I think Saquon, I think you're right with that.
yeah, I think maybe the best one on the board would be Brees Hall in the Jets, but there's no way. Not with
Yeah.
Prime Faz both there with the two best teams in the division, and then anything else on the board that looks good. So I like the pick there, the Raiders. What about Mike at 12?
Yeah, one thing I did see Mike talk about a lot was Desmond Ritter. He was not happy. I think that we know that he wants a QB, and so they always give this QB love. Every Madden, at the start of the Madden, this QB gets so much love. Dak Prescott. So I think he's going with the Cowboys. And they're a great overall team. I mean, I think they have talent everywhere. And so this is like the top 5 Madden offense and a lot of weapons on defense. So I think this is where Mike would go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, this is where Prime put him too. Same reasoning. He complained about Ritter, so now you get Dak Prescott. He's going to be probably X Factor again. And then he complained about Miles Sanders. He cut Miles Sanders in the middle of the season. It wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to get rid of him. No, just dropped him dead middle of the season, cut superstar running back Miles Sanders. Now you get Tony Pollard. Um, Probably end up cutting both of those guys in the middle of the season again because it'll be their fault. Um,
That
but
could be a tough coach to play for.
yeah, but at least going into the draft, that looks like the best options he's got there. Maybe he goes AFC South and takes the Jaguars, where you got a superstar Trevor Lawrence and ETN. I don't think he likes the Panthers going with a rookie quarterback again after that. So I think you're probably right. I think it's got to be somewhere that has a quarterback. AFC East is out because of Faz and Prime. I don't know if he likes Trevor Lawrence enough, and really that's where your quarterbacks kind of end if you don't go with Dak. So I like the pick here. All right, 13 we've got Doink. What do you have Doink doing?
Yeah. So I wanted to pick something that I think had some stars on offense and defense. I think, but a chance to really show what Doink can do. I think his last team, I think he was able to make something happen with less, and I think this team might have a little bit more, especially with the addition of Derek Carr. So I think he's going to take the Saints. I think the Saints have a pretty good, solid team all around. I think they're actually probably a little better on Madden than they are in real life. I think they got some things going on and so many question marks, but I think in Madden they're gonna be pretty legit, and I think Doink can probably make some really really good things happen. And with the Saints, there's probably some other teams he could look at here, but I think the Saints edge out just a little bit, just because of the elite corner play, and the receivers, the receiver they have, and the vet, and the young guy, the running game. I think this is a pretty built Saints team for Madden.
Yeah, I think if he's good with Derek Carr, because I think quarterback with that Commanders team, quarterback is kind of what held him back. But at this point, unless you're willing to go with the Jets, you're not really set at quarterback. Maybe the Jaguars again, but you have the rest of that team. The only other team I would say maybe he goes with is the Falcons, and that's because I think they have a superstar kicker, and kicking has been kind of his. I mean, he's called Doink, so maybe he tries to get that superstar kicker and get rid of that Doink moniker. So 14, we've got Double Rice No Bean. He's going to be coming back. He dropped quite a bit down to 14. Who do you think? We've heard Patriots, then we heard anybody but the Patriots, and then we saw his list today. It had the Patriots. Who do you think he's going to take?
I think he's set on the Patriots, but I think there's no way he takes the Patriots with this setup.
Yeah.
And so I think he comes around and actually ends up taking the Jags. I think that this team, is fun. I think Doink, right above, could have taken the Jaguars over the Saints, similarly to what you were saying. I think you look at kind of the quarterback and the rest of the things they have. They have solid players all around. And so I think he comes around and he ends up taking the Jags.
So did you know before this that he was the Jags before he left?
I forgot about. I wasn't thinking about
Okay.
that when I did. So no, actually.
So yeah, you can see though. I mean, the Jags absolutely fit him, and that's why without even knowing he was the Jags, you give him the Jags.
Yeah, that's funny because I was trying to think about like, oh, who were they? And they probably won't want to take that again. So that's funny that I ended up giving him the Jags again.
I think he could take him again. I think he enjoyed playing with them. I think he probably kicked himself a little bit with the Trevor Lawrence trade because I don't think that panned out quite as well. He did have some success before he left, but I think he would have done a lot better if he had Trevor Lawrence the whole way. So I like the pick for him, and maybe he does run it back. I don't know if he's one that would do that, but we've seen guys do it multiple times. So okay, Jags for Bean. What about Fig? Fig, the other Patriots fan in here, but I don't think he's doing that either.
Yeah, I think out of anyone, I think Fig is looking at that and laughing. Like, definitely not. And I think he's looking for the speed. He's like, Tyreek is gone, but who is the fastest person under Tyreek? I think Jameson Williams is the cat. And so I think he goes with the Lions. I think this team is set up pretty well. He can trade or find another speed receiver in the draft, but he has his main one in Williamson. And I think this team all around has a lot of good pieces. You look at that defense and some of the pieces they have on the defensive line. You look at the secondary and how they've kind of rebuilt that. I think this is a pretty good, solid team. And I think that speed helps him come and pick the lines.
Yeah, I think if he's looking for speed and it comes down to speed at the wide receiver position, you're really looking at the Lions and then the Cardinals with Hollywood Brown, and I don't think at 15 you're seriously considering the Cardinals here. So I definitely agree with the Lions there. If he's going to be a speed guy, that's your guy right there. Clink at 16. Clink, an Eagles fan. They're off the board at this point. Who do you have Clink taking?
Yeah, I think Clink also enjoyed that speed receiver he had last season, and he went crazy with him. And I think last season maybe he was also watching what Faz and what he was doing with Christian Watson. He had a taste of it there. I know you said Faz built up Christian Watson as well, but I think he comes and he takes the Packers. I think it's a solid team. Obviously they're switching from Rodgers to Love, but I think they still have a lot of great weapons. They got, the DB that they have, some of the pass rushers, run game. I think they're built pretty well and would be a good choice for Clink here.
Yeah, I like that pick actually because Clink's a guy that he likes to build a team as well. And I think with them having the 2 first-round picks, he can do a little bit there. No Rodgers contract means you have a little more cap flexibility. And Faz built up Christian Watson, but he didn't make him faster. I mean, he's got the speed already, so you don't have to worry about that. And the size is there. I like this pick. I think Prime had him taking the Lions, and I actually like this Packers pick better. I think it's a better fit. All right, Biz at 17 with the Panthers still on the board.
Yeah, so I was looking at Biz and I started cracking up because I saw that I think he was the Bears and he had Jared Goff. And so now I'm looking at his team and I'm like, okay, so he likes pocket QBs. I guess he likes tall receivers, and I guess he likes edge rushers because he had Mike Williams and he had Bradley Chubb there. And so I said, you know what? Who would be great for Biz to have then? And I gave him the Vikings. I gave him the Vikings. He could go and have Kirk Cousins. He has Justin Jefferson, who's not, as tall as a Mike Williams, but Justin Jefferson can go and make any catch. And then he has some decent pass rushers with Daniel Hunter. And this division is also definitely very, very winnable. And so I ended up giving Biz the Vikings.
I like it. I'd be surprised if he passes on the Panthers. We've heard him say that they're not his number one team. I think he's full of shit. But yeah, I like the Vikings for the reasons you said. I think regardless of any reasons, he'll take the Panthers if they're there. But the Vikings make sense for his kind of play style. All right, so Tiny at 18, he's talked about taking the Titans. They're on the board. Does he take the Titans?
I originally had him taking the Titans, but I looked and I'm like, he just was the Titans, and I'm like, does he want to take them again? I know there's been a lot of talk with the Titans fans, and are they really Titan fans? They're not going to pick the Titans. And so I said, you know what? I'm giving Tiny the Giants, and he's going to be the Tiny Giants. It was fun to say it, and I thought, they still have, great running game. And no one really in the division yet. I think he's a great trader who can get what he needs, probably get Daniel Jones out of there, and Saquon is going to have a field day. So I ended up giving Tiny the Giants and him not going with the Titans.
Yeah, and he'd be another team going back to the same team. I think the Giants' success that he had this season is the most he's had in 3+ years that I've been here. So I could see him absolutely going back to that Giants team. All right, pick 19, we've got Gutta.
So Gutta, when I was looking at him, I'm like, man. I was looking and trying to see and think about who I thought Gutta would take, and I thought the best option here, with the best overall talent, and probably the up and coming quarterback, someone who definitely has developed and is getting a lot more love now. I think he's gonna go with the Seahawks. I think Geno Smith, and you got those great receivers over there now. The defense, Tyreek Woolen. I think that's a great team. I think he's happy to get them here, and I had Gutta going with the Seahawks.
I love that pick. I like the Seahawks a lot. I'd be shocked if they make it to 19 because I think they actually are one of those sneaky good teams, and maybe the more people play with them, or the more we get our hands on the game, get closer to the draft, the more people are going to see. DK Metcalf's on that team. Everybody knows how good DK Metcalf is. He's the second best receiver on the team. Looking at the ratings, they got Lockett's actually still number one. You have Noah Fant. You have Kenneth Walker. the defense is solid, and you have two really good, really young corners, which to me is something that's always nice to have, is just those two corners that you don't have to worry about people throwing all over you. And I think they're good. I think they're a good team for Gutta, and I like that pick. I just don't see that they'll be there. I think everybody's kind of sleeping on the Seahawks right now.
Yeah, I could definitely see them going higher. I could see somebody, even Rice or someone a little higher, maybe even Dump going and taking the Seahawks
Yeah.
before they fell this far for sure. But if they're here, I think Gut is really happy.
Yeah, I think so too. I totally agree. So Paulie at 20.
Yeah, I think Paulie, he really seems like a Madden pro. You know, he can throw with anyone. He runs the ball really well. Even when I hear him talk about the game and talk about Madden, I think he just does a really good job of like understanding the game and playing it really well. And so I had him taking the Colts here. I
Ooh,
think he's surprised that the Colts are still here and around, and I think he could do a really good job with them. So I think he ends up taking the Colts.
okay. Yeah, I mean, you talk about him understanding the game and knowing it. I think it was last cycle we actually found out he has a offline CFM that follows the online version, and he just plays the whoever his opponent is. He plays the computer as well. He may or may not have streamed one of those computer games thinking he was playing dump, but yeah, you missed that one. Was
Oh, that's
my
funny.
favorite moment of Madden 22. But okay, so Paulie to the Colts. RD up next, 21. RD upset he's not going to get his Raiders again. Where do you have RD going?
Yeah, so I think RD, he's another one of those guys, does a great job at taking control of the game. Um, I think that he knows how to run the ball, he knows how to throw it, he plays great defense, great user. And so I have him taking the Steelers. Because of that, I think, you know, that run game, those receivers, I think are decent, you know, and with someone like RD, he can make them like really great. And that defense, I mean, you can't deny it, you know. And if you add his user to that kind of defense, I think that is a scary defense. And next now the Steelers are playing like lights out. And so I thought RD would be a great user to have the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. The other team that, if it falls like this, that I could see him taking would be the Jets. I know, we talked about Faz is there, Prime is there. He also joined Faz and Prime in the AFC South to start this season as the Texans. And he picked about the same spot, so it's not like he got stuck with the Texans. And then the cycle before, you had Prime took the Chiefs. I believe Dan had the Chargers, and RD went in and took the Broncos. Or no, I'm sorry, he took the Raiders. He got his Raiders team. So he's not afraid to jump into one of those heavy divisions. So if the Jets
Yeah,
are
I
there,
could definitely see him taking the Jets too. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, he seems to like to follow Prime. That was 2 drafts I've seen him do it, regardless of what team is available there. So he would be an interesting one to watch. All right, Noel, fresh off a Super Bowl, we saw what he did with Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, and the Browns. Obviously, they're not on the board here. What's he gonna do?
I said, give him another running back. This one's a little older, but still a beast. Give him Derrick Henry. We saw him get to the Super Bowl from running the ball. This may be the best proven runner available, even though he is older. I mean, he could go with the Falcons here. There's probably he could, maybe go with the Jets. I don't think he's jumping into that league, and so I have him going with Derrick Henry, and using him while he can.
Yeah, I could see that. You get a taste of that freight train and those really good running backs like a Nick Chubb. I could absolutely see him going with something like a Derrick Henry. He is a Jags fan, so that might deter him a little bit. But you've got a freight train running back on the board. I think it would at that point be between them, and my sleeper would be the Falcons. Saw
Yeah.
what he did with Njoku, saw what he did with Chubb. So you get Kyle Pitts, and it's kind of flip flop. Chubb was the better of the two, and then he had a really good tight end to go with it. Now he'd have a really good tight end, but Bijan Robinson would need a little work. But
Right.
he's going to come in as a rookie, plenty of time to develop him. So
Oh
I could
yeah.
see him going with that. He actually traded Deshaun Watson and ran with a rookie, so I don't think Ritter scares him off. So I think he would like the Falcons. I think he even mentioned something about it. But Derrick Henry on the board would be really tough to pass up after the success he had with Nick Chubb. All right, KJ sitting at 23.
Yeah, so I had KJ. I think KJ loves building a team. And so when I looked and I said, what team do I think gives you a lot of flexibility? Maybe not early on, but where it's going, I decided to give him the Bucks. I think the Bucks, a lot of the players are starting to get a little bit older, and it's time to just clean out the locker room and bring in some fresh faces. And so that's why I went with the Bucks. The QB, the wide receivers, the linebackers. I think everyone are definitely getting up there. And so I thought it'd be fun to watch KJ rebuild that team, make it completely new. And I think this division also looks better than maybe some of the other
Hmm.
divisions up there as well. So I decided to give KJ the Bucks.
I love the Bucks pick. For me, it would be the Bucks or maybe the Panthers, maybe the Commanders. But to me, the Bucks pick is great because you have the defense. Um, you know, in my opinion, I like to build the defense first because on defense I control one guy, on offense I control the ball. So
Yeah.
um, I think a guy like KJ, if you give him a really good defense, and we saw it with the Rams this year, the games that he won were because Aaron Donald and that Rams defense kind of took over, stopped the other team, forced turnovers, and then he just has to not screw up too badly on offense, and he can stay in games. So I think going with a good defense like the Bucks there, I think that's a great pick for KJ. Coop at 24. If we're not Sim in 10 years, what are we picking?
um. So these last couple of picks definitely started getting hard, and it definitely gets harder when you get
All
down
right.
here. It's like, oh man, what are they gonna go with? I think you caught this team a couple of times. I think they could have already been gone. And so I think this is a great team for him to get here. I think he comes and gets the Commanders. I think that defense is really good, and with the offense, they have a lot of weapons. Obviously, you got to see what you're gonna do at the QB, but I think this is a great pick here. I think it's a solid team, and there's a lot that you can do with it. And I think Coop, while he with his gameplay, maybe he can get back some of those turnovers and some of those thrown interceptions with that defense. And so I gave him the Commanders.
Yeah, I like that pick. We saw him trade for Deron Payne, so he clearly likes Deron Payne. I think he actually traded for him both before and after the blip. And then on top of that, uh, my first full cycle, he had the Titans, and he drafted a defensive end. Still remember his name. I think it was Givens, and he just was a pain in the ass to play against. And now you come in with the Commanders, and you've got basically four Givens.
Yeah.
You've got Sweat, you've got Allen, you've got Payne, you've got Chase Young, all those guys there. Plenty of weapons on offense. Again, no quarterback, but he's used to that with the Seahawks he just played with. But you have everything else, and especially that front four. I love this pick for Coop. All right. Colt 45 or Noel 2.0, whichever you want to call him, but he's up at 25. Where do you have him going here?
So I finally got this team off the board. There was another one that I thought might go here as well, but I ended up deciding to give Colt the Falcons. I think that tight end running back combo. Well, one, I think Colt did amazing with his tight end last season, and so giving him Kyle Pitts, one of the best tight ends, especially in Madden, I think only elevates his game. And so I think with the young guys they have, I think this is a great team for him to go and try to replicate some of the success he had getting to the playoffs, and seeing what he could do with the Falcons.
Yeah, so I mean, Colt had a lot of success with the Steelers. He beat me both times we played. He made the playoffs twice. So I think for him, it would be a good idea to kind of look for a team that looks as similar as possible to that Steelers team that he had. And with Bijan Robinson as your Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, light years better than any tight end he had. I think that's a great pick there. The only thing you won't have is his Trevor Lawrence, but who knows? Maybe you find a way to get Trevor Lawrence from Bean. You got him from him once. You can probably do it again. All right. So the man of mystery here, always my toughest one to mock here is number 26. We got terrible two step. Cowboys fan, they're off the board. After that, nobody knows what he's gonna do.
Yeah, so this one was definitely tough, and I went and I said, you know what? Who is the most fun team still on the board? And it's got to be the Panthers with Bryce Young, that new offense. I think he looks for a silver lining and not having the team he might have wanted on the board, and so I think he goes with the Panthers and has a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, Panthers a really good team. Everybody kind of is overlooking that defense. You see Bryce Young, and immediately that's like kind of what you're drawn to is, oh, rookie quarterback, probably superstar, great team to build around. But that defense is already fairly set. You've got Burns, you've got Brown, you've got three good corners in Horn,
Yep.
Henderson, and Dante Jackson. You've got Jeremy Chin, who's a physical freak. You've got a lot of stuff there to work with on the defensive side of the ball, even without bringing up Bryce Young. So I think that's a really good pick for him. Despite what Mike says, I think Miles Sanders is a good running back, and so I think he would be thrilled to get the Panthers at 26. And then maybe he doesn't have to draft one. This cycle we saw him draft one just about every season, it felt like. So Panthers, great pick for two-step. Monty up next. This is a guy that gave up the Panthers to take the Broncos after the blip that nobody wanted. Everybody was keeping their teams because they didn't want to get stuck with Denver, and he either bit the bullet and took it, or he just didn't realize what was happening. But who do you have him taking now that he's got a choice of a few teams here?
Yeah, so because he just came off the Broncos, I thought maybe he wouldn't pick them. The Jets are probably the best team on the board, but man, does he want to step into that division. As I was looking at the teams, I thought, maybe he would want to go with the Bears. Based on what was in front of him and looking at all the divisions and how they're stacking up, I think the Bears have a lot to offer. Justin Fields, obviously, draft capital. You look at what they have on offense and defense. I think they're in a decent spot for you to say, you know what, this might be the best option here. And I think he goes with the Bears.
Yeah, like I said, at number 2, Texans and Bears are two of my teams I'm looking at, and the Bears, as bad as they are on defense, they're basically set on offense. You got Fields, running back is a little shaky there, but you can pretty much grab anybody off the free agency and turn them into at least a serviceable guy. Hell, apparently Miles Sanders has been there a time or two. But then you got Claypool, you've got Mooney, you've got DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Robert Tunyon, a decent offensive line because they brought in a couple guys. They drafted one in the first round. And even on defense, the secondary, not bad with Brisker, Eddie Jackson, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon. Those guys not great. They're not going to blow anybody away, but they're a solid secondary. And then you got Tremaine Edmonds in the middle linebacker spot. The rest of the defense, they leave a little bit to be desired, but he has 2 first-round picks. And one of those, according to this, would be terrible two-step. That's a top 5 pick. So that's not bad. If you're the Bears, you come in with a top 5 pick, whatever your pick's going to be. You're talking about Clink, Fig, and I'm trying to think who got the 4th spot in the NFC North. The Vikings went to
Biz.
So yeah, Biz, Clink, and Fig. Clink's going to give you some troubles, but you can probably build a team. Monty's been to a Super Bowl. So out of that group, he's the only one been to a Super Bowl, and he did it with the Broncos. So I think the Bears not going to be scared off by maybe a lesser roster, and I think he would enjoy playing with those Bears and what he could do with them in the offseason. All right. So next up is 28. We got SML Hall of Famer NYT. Always kind of been criticized for going to easy divisions. He went to a tough division, and he didn't finish the cycle. What's he going to do this time at 28? Not a ton of options.
Yeah, not a ton of options here. I mean, it's not looking great really anywhere you look. And so what I decided to give him, I said, you got to go with a team that has a 99 overall. You got to go with the Rams here. You got Aaron Donald. You look at that division that he has over there with the Rams. You got Rice. You got Fins. And so I decided to give him the Rams, and I thought that would be out of all the final options, the best option available.
Yeah, I like it. He's got the Rams. You got Fins. There's the 49ers, which is the best roster. Fins, a guy that's not going to beat up on NYT too much. NYT can probably win the majority of the games against him, even with the Rams roster. And then you have the Seahawks. They went to Gutta. Again, I think NYT and Gutta match up really well. And then he's just got the Cardinals there left with, Gilbert and the Rowan Royce combo. He does have a possibility of you or AJ getting them, so that would be a little tougher. But I think when he looks at the divisions, that's probably one of the better ones to look at, especially when we're talking about the AFC East and the AFC West as the other two options. All right, so AJ, you're pretty familiar with AJ. You guys were in primer together for a while. Where do you think AJ goes with these 4 teams left?
Yeah, I think AJ, he had a great season last season. I think he's finding his stride, and I think he just takes the best team available. And so I think he decides to go with the Jets. He pulls as you said, a RD move. He says, you know what, I'm not afraid to be in there with Faz and with Prime, and I'm gonna pick the best team available, and I'm gonna make something happen. He's like, if I'm gonna win a Super Bowl, I gotta go through these two anyway at some point. So I think he just goes with the Jets and decides to play in that freakish conference over there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything bad with playing the better guys, especially if you think you can get to the playoffs, because then if you face them, you've seen them a bunch. So they're not going to surprise you with anything. I think AJ to the Jets would be good, especially we saw what he did with Kamara. Now you give him Breece Hall and Aaron Rodgers for a season or two. And then what I think is a better defense than what he had with the Saints, especially this year. You got to imagine Sauce is going to be a superstar, highly rated corner, probably one of the best in the game. So I think the Jets are a good fit for him. So that leaves us with 3 teams left. Gilbert on the board. Where do you have Gilbert going?
So out of the 3 teams, once we started getting down here, I did start going with who has, a player that can definitely make a difference. And I think the Broncos have that. You look at the players that they have, Patrick Surtain, you look at Jerry Jeudy, you look at Javonte Williams. And I think you got to go with that. When you're looking at who's available, when you're looking at the divisions, I think Gilbert ends up taking the Broncos because they're the best team out of the 3.
Okay. I like that. And they've already got a quarterback that he can't move, so he's pretty much stuck with him. We don't have to worry about that. So now you've got the Rowan Royce combo here at 31. You've got 2 teams on the board, one with a fairly easy division and one with probably the toughest division. But I would probably say the Patriots have maybe the better roster. Probably questionable there, but who do you have going at 31?
At 31, I think the Rolls Royce combo, I think they decide to just go with the Cardinals. I do think they look and see the Patriots might have the better team. I think they go with the Cardinals for the division and for being able to maybe build that team up. And you still got Hollywood, that speedster. You still got some great pieces on defense and Simmons, and I think they decide to go with that just because there's so many pieces you can build there and maybe staying out of that tougher division. I think when it comes down to it in the last 2, I think that might be the selling point.
Yeah, I think the extra picks. I know Kyler Murray's contract is awful, but I'd probably rather have Kyler Murray's awful contract and Kyler Murray than Mac Jones and his first round rookie deal. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, you're stuck with Mac Jones, and at least with Kyler Murray, you got a quarterback that if you can sling it enough and well enough, you can develop him into still being a good quarterback. He just doesn't start there. And then the extra picks, the 2 unicorns on defense in Simmons and Baker, I think that's probably the difference maker there. If I'm picking, I would take the Cardinals over the Patriots. So that means 32, you've got yourself getting the Patriots. How disappointed are you in the Patriots?
Yeah, I would definitely say I would not be jumping up and down. Let's say that. I'd be like, all right, let's do this. How can I get my hands on the Patriots as quickly as possible? Let me see what this team is about. Yeah, when I saw how this was shaking out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna land the Patriots.
Yeah, with the 2 you got in there, and then that roster, it'd be tough for them not to fall to 32. I mean, that's kind of unfortunate that would be the team you'd get stuck with, because I think 31 other teams would be better. That really would be the worst case scenario. Fortunately, I don't think it's going to fall that way. I think at least Prime or Faz is going to go to the AFC South, because I definitely don't see them following each other if they're not going to go, or at least Faz isn't going to follow Prime if it's not to go to the Jags. So I think you'd be safe there. Maybe Bean decides he's going to take those Patriots after all, and then you avoid that Patriots team. But I like the way it turned out. I'm sure some of these guys taking their favorite teams is going to go a different way. But I mean, you base this off what you think they should take based off how they play and how they did. And I agree with pretty much all of them. I think you nailed it. Some of them we even picked the same teams that they've had before because it's such a good fit. So I think this was a good one to give guys a better idea of what may be there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun trying to match guys of some guys I've seen a little bit more of if I've played them or if I watched a little bit more of their games, and some guys it was really basing it off of their career stats and looking at players, and so it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and maybe people can look at this and say, oh, let me rethink my game and what I'm looking for. So we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of times the teams people think that they would enjoy the most isn't necessarily the best fit for them. And now you also get to see how hard it is to mock a team for two-step. So, the man of few words.
I'm a part of that now, right?
Yep. All right, but I appreciate you being on and doing this mock draft. This is our second mock draft already. We're 2 days in. We've already got 2 mock drafts. Maybe we'll slow the pace down a little bit so we can give guys time to digest this. But appreciate you coming on and offering your takes on what guys should probably take according to their play style.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully, I don't take too much heat for this. Love you all.
Oh, you
And
haven't been in the SML very long if you think you're not going to take much heat for this. Somebody's
Yeah, I'm
going
already
to
ready.
complain about you didn't give me this team, and that's what I would take. Or I wouldn't
Right,
take that
right.
team.
How could you pass up this team for me?
Nobody's probably listening this far, so I'm going to just go ahead and say it so it's on record. The first one's going to be Biz. Biz is going to be the first one because you gave him the Vikings over the Panthers, and he does listen to these. Some of them may not listen all the way through, so they won't hear it. But Biz will say something about you and the Panthers, I'm sure.
Oh, this is gonna be funny.
All right. Thanks for recording, and this has been our SML Mock Draft 2.0.